In the recent years, I have been appreciating music more, especially in video games. And it's honestly thanks to Final Fantasy XIV and their amazing and phenomenal original soundtrack. And even before I played Final Fantasy XIV, of course, I still did enjoy music. But before, I never questioned any type of song at all. Like, why do I like the song? Why is it unique? Especially when it comes to video game music. I just thought it was this background noise of something that is like a sprinkle on top. And eventually there was a turning point. There was two songs in Final Fantasy XIV that changed my opinion of music. And before I review what those two songs is, I want to say please subscribe to the channel. And if you're not going to do it for me, do it for the Red Panda, because he knows that a lot of you are not subscribed right now and he's really sad about it. So he will really appreciate if you do. The first one was Dragon Song. Dragon Song was the very first sentimental song. Each time when I think about it now, I always think about entering the final steps of fate. And I think it's just really cool to have that nostalgic feel from a song, because honestly, I adore that fight. I really like it. I think just the final step of fate is cool, and I think it just because hearing the song Dragon Song for the very first time just amplify it so much more, and it became memorable. And on top of that, learning also the lyrics of the song made it where it's 5 times better than I originally thought. It made me even appreciate video game music more, because the song itself is telling a story about Ishgard and a person questioning their actions and asking the question of like, what's the purpose, the end goal of this, and that person not really understanding and just asking why. And it's cool how Dragon Song is telling that point of view from that person and how it's affecting the story and enhancing the story itself. And that's not all. Once you're done with the final step of faith, the song is introduced one more time in a scene, and it's not supposed to represent sadness or a history of Ishgard and a person questioning their action. What it's supposed to tell is a wrap up of everything. Everything is about to be done. Everything that you have achieved, it's about to be finished. It's just a brilliant piece of work that they have included in the scene. So phenomenal. But of course, that is my interpretation of the song and how it's connected to the scene. It might have been different for you. And then there is Answer, which I would say is a masterpiece of a song because of how well they integrated into the story of Final Fantasy XIV. Because at first in ARR, the song is about the people of Eorzea asking Hydaelyn for answers of why do we have to suffer? Why do we have to go through of all of this suffering? And then Hydaelyn comes in and she said, to the people that can hear me, that the answer you're looking for is something that I cannot give you. It's something that you guys have to work together and push forward no matter what, how deep, dark, or painful it is. The answer that you are looking for is one you have to find for yourself. And that's only a brief summary of the song. But each expansion that you go to, the meaning of the song becomes more meaningful. Are you really finding that answer, or are you getting closer to that answer? Everything that song is doing in each expansion is becoming more and more powerful. And then you get to Endwalker, which I am not going to go into detail or mention any bit and pieces of it, because ideally it will bring in a bunch of spoilers if I try to talk about it. Once, it's a very powerful scene with the song Answer, and everything else afterwards make it even more powerful too. So I am not going to say much about it. It's a phenomenal, amazing, and a masterpiece of a song. And there's many more songs in Final Fantasy XIV, the OST, that are phenomenal too, like Tomorrow, Closing the Distance, Who Brings a Shadow to the Edge, Wayward Daughter, and many more in the whole soundtrack that are phenomenal and amazing. It's just that when it came to these two, it really taught me on how well a song can be implemented in a scene. And it made me just realize all of that, and especially if they have lyrics, go out of my way to learn what the lyrics was as me and trying to have my own interpretation of it, it made it where I have a understanding for music even more in general. Because when it comes to music that is not from video games, I have been honestly enjoying it a lot more because of a lot of things that I have learned from Final Fantasy XIV by listening to the melody, the rhythm, the harmony. I think that's what they're called. I'm not a magician. And also listening to if there's any other instrument of the song and if there is a background vocalist and not the main artist only. And by doing all of that, it made it a lot more easier for me to get into the groove of the music. And at first I thought it was a little weird that video game music taught me that, but I think it makes sense in hindsight, because the first time that I actually tried to analyze and learn the song of a music in general was in Final Fantasy XIV when it came to Answer and Dragon Song. And I think that just learning from that alone made it where a lot more easier for me to understand music from other type of media and not only from video games, and appreciate it. But it also sadly at the same time kind of ruined it in some aspect, because it made me think in a more logical way if like, does that song make sense in this scene? And I feel like sometimes I cannot truly enjoy the music all the time, but I think the overall benefits is a lot more fun and enjoyable to think about. And later on, and more the time goes on and more I appreciate Final Fantasy XIV music, eventually I moved to other games and see if there's any other one that I enjoy as much as Final Fantasy XIV original soundtrack. So I went down a rabbit hole of video games that I have played or heard of too that have amazing soundtracks, and like for example Pokemon, Donkey Kong, Zelda, other Final Fantasy games, Skyrim, and many more. There's one I feel like that had the same impact on me like Final Fantasy XIV did, and it's actually multiple games because it's a series game, and it is Xenoblade Chronicles. And the reason is honestly the same reason why I like Final Fantasy XIV music, not only it being an amazing original soundtrack, but also how well they introduce the music in the video game and how much it also evolved and the meaning behind it. Because if it wants you to feel sad, it will do that. If it wants you to be happy, it will do that. If it wants you to feel amped up, the music will do that in Xenoblade Chronicles. And I love when games do that, obviously. Like if you've been listening, I've been explaining how that's an amazing thing and how well video games could do that in a scene, and Xenoblade Chronicles does it as well or close to as Final Fantasy XIV. But of course, that's just an opinion. And if you've never heard of Xenoblade Chronicles, I highly suggest that you should at least listen to the OST because it's phenomenal. Here's a few of my recommendation is Engage the Enemy, Counterattack, The Kingdom of Ura, Drifting Soul, Carrying the Weight of Life, and Redeem the Future. All of those are my personal favorites. They're amazing piece of work, and I hope you enjoy it if you are going to listen to those. And that's how Final Fantasy XIV made me appreciate music even more than before. So, and if any of you have any similar experience in Final Fantasy XIV or a other game, please share. I would love to know. But hope all you have a wonderful day and see ya.